Wake up, I've got something to tell you.
Dad, what's wrong?
There are demons among us. I can see the demons, while other people can't.
I'm scared, Dad.
Nothing that crazy could be real.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. I just want to thank all of our fans and listeners for all the support. Tonight is a very, very special episode for me. But before I tell you why, I'm just going to get the business out of the way. Quick shout out to our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and on YouTube. Just search Don't Go Out There and you'll find us, and Brian's awesome artwork he's done for us. And a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. You can find all of our episodes, our interviews, our celebrity shout outs, our blog, and our store. And we also have a new addition to the website, and Brother Brian would be excited to tell you about that. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, we got a new sponsor, but first of all, the most important thing is we're doing this podcast episode special because of Nico's birthday and doing a little birthday episode. And so just happy birthday, Nico. And look, none of us would even be here doing this if it wasn't for you, man. Thank you.
Happy
our news
birthday, Jason Voorhees sucks.
Anyway, our new sponsor is Loot Crate. If you're not familiar with it, it's a subscription box service, and you've actually been living in a box if you haven't been, familiar with Loot Crate. But it's a subscription box service, which, I mean, if you sign up for it, you have different choices of 1 month, 3 months, whatever. But they'll send you a box of just kind of like you can pick a pop culture box, a gaming box, things like that. So, and they send you some cool stuff. I actually signed up for the pop culture box, and my first one came in, and I got some really cool stuff. My favorite part of that was some Saved by the Bell socks that I got. Hey, I mean, I'll wear those to work. They're awesome. So, anyway, if you go to our website, there's a link directly to it, or you can just go to lootcrate.com. But when you sign up, when you sign up for a box, use code BF15. That's B as in boy, F as in Frank, 15. And that'll get you 15% off. Thanks to our newest sponsors, Loot Crate, with the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Awesome. It's always nice to pick up a new sponsor.
Absolutely. Hey, Brian, you must wear those socks when you wake up in the morning.
Only when the alarm goes off.
There we go. We did it. Hey, we're already ruining Nico's birthday. Shit.
No. I love this show. But this is a bonus episode. I'm super excited about not only this movie we're reviewing, but this is my 30th birthday. So I'm leaving my 20s. I'm becoming an old man day by day. Feels wonderful, I guess. Thank you, God, for another day on this planet. But for my 30th birthday movie review, I'm choosing a film from 2001, a movie I saw within the past few months that really stuck with me, and it was very, very entertaining and good to me. 2001's Frailty. I'll just give my general overview real quick. I was automatically hooked as soon as I knew Matthew McConaughey was in it, because I'm a big fan of his. I like his acting. Oh, yeah. I think he's a great actor, and I don't know. We Are Marshall is one of my favorite movies. So Coach Jack Lingle, I love Matthew, but what a great performance from Powers Booth, Bill Paxton. Yes. His directorial debut, did an amazing job, and I watched so many behind the scenes of this, and just the amount of attention to detail they did. I absolutely love this movie, and like I said in our Babadook review, this movie kind of gives me some Seven vibes,
Oh yeah,
and I'm gonna be honest, I love this movie. I don't pick movies I don't like to review, so I'm gonna rate it really good. Not a 10. This isn't a 10 for me, but it's really high. But I love this movie. I think it's great, and I think it has a pretty nice message and a good twist ending. Brian, you want to go next? General overview.
Ooh, speaking of age, when we picked this movie and I looked at it, it was the year 2001. It reminded me that that's the year I graduated high school and that my 20-year class reunion is this year. So I am definitely not 30. So let's just get into that. Anyway, I like you, man. I really like this movie a lot. I'll get into it some, but the ending I think kept me from absolutely loving it. But I was really intrigued the whole time. It gripped me. Like you said, it had a lot of Seven, but I thought it also had a lot of Usual Suspects vibes for sure. And look, this is a gutsy movie to make. I mean, we see movies all the time with that whole notion that this gives us, like that they're being led by some god or some religious notion, but almost always it turns out that the killer per se, or the one presenting these reasons is just mentally crazy. And that's what makes this one so different. I mean, it had the damn balls to follow it right into the bitter end. And I respect the hell out of that. No pun intended. It's only helped by, some of the best actors. Shit, I was going to say of our generation, but really any generation. And David Kirshner actually produced this. So it's hell, he may be Nico's producer version of how much I love Kevin Williamson, since he's done Hocus Pocus and Child's Play franchise, and
every
Nico
single
loves
Child's Play.
Yep. Anyway, I love how it presents like these two, really three different viewpoints, and basically you side with Paxton or you side with the kid. And as an audience member, you can actually understand both, and during the movie, probably side with both viewpoints as well. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to come off and say this cast is great. I love Bill Paxton, everything he's in. I enjoy. Heck, he's even great in Titanic. I know he barely even does anything, besides talk shit there. And again, love Matthew McConaughey as well. And I thought the kids gave great performances. I thought this was a really good movie. This is the second time I've seen this movie. I think the first time I saw it was around the time it came out. And I think it was more probably because I didn't view this through the lens of a standard horror movie. Obviously our tastes have changed, and we can kind of lump this in with the Sevens, the Silence of the Lambs, like kind of it's right on that line of horror thriller. So that's probably why I saw it so early in 01. And I remember liking it, but I didn't remember it very well. So I went back and watched it this time, and I think it's really good. I mean, I think it's a pretty dang good movie. I talked about the cast already, but to me, this almost has like, you mentioned The Usual Suspects, you mentioned Seven, but this has almost like a Stephen King novel feel. Not the horror ones, but think more like Green Mile type stories, and stuff like
you're
that.
Right.
There's a supernatural element, but not really. It's not really. It's it kind of toes that line of religion, what's real, what's not real, and I think it's a really interesting concept. I think it does a good job with the suspense throughout the entire movie. This story gripped me in. I thought it was very, very interesting. There's not another movie like this in particular, not to me anyways.
You're right.
And you mentioned it being a very ballsy movie to make. Well, yes, because this does not have box office appeal. Right. Just slapping the name Frailty on it doesn't have a lot of box office appeal. And so I think this is really good. I feel like more people should see the movie. I have some problems with it. And Brian, you mentioned the end. I too have a problem with the end. And I kind of I feel like this is like the third or fourth week in a row where I've had to say that, where the end kind of screws up a bunch of good stuff. But it's not so bad that it made me not enjoy the movie like The Babadook did.
Right. Right.
It's not so bad where I can't wrap my head around it. Like, okay, I see what they're doing there. But I thought it was not fun. Fun's not the right word, but it was a really good watch. It's a quick watch, which I really enjoy. I like when movies do that. Again, the end gets a little convoluted, but I also feel like that would be cleared up the more times you watch this movie. If you only watch this once, I would highly recommend going back and watching it another time to kind of wrap your head around it. But I'm ready to talk about it. I mean, and by the way, I know this is skipping way ahead, but I don't know how the hell you guys pick fave kill and least favorite kill.
Yeah, that was hard.
Those things rarely exist.
It was hard to pick for me.
But right. But I just want to say, one more time, bravo to this cast. They all did a great job. And and Bill Paxton for the for the direction of the film, shot it very like old school, very grounded, not a lot of location sets, just very, 1, 2, 3 locations at the most where, you could kind of get everything that you needed. And I love the car scenes because you could tell it's very like 1960s Hollywood, like 1960s, like they shot this kind of on a machine and the cars kind of moving, like old school car scenes in movies. And wait till we get to the floating head because I have a funny, but I'll save it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about it. I'm glad you made me watch it, Nico. It had been a really long time.
Yeah, I picked it because I felt like it was a movie that's not well known, honestly, or not as well known, but I really like this movie a lot. I think it's great. I'm curious to hear y'all's nitpicks on the end because I really like the ending. Y'all ready to start?
Hey, Nico.
Yeah.
Hey, Nico. One thing I caught vibes of watching this movie, and I know, Dad, as he's so subtly named in the cast listing, Bill Paxton's character kind of says he's never killed anyone. Another one of your favorite movies,
Jigsaw.
There's some Jigsaw vibes, which kind of makes me wonder what you've been up to in your spare time, buddy.
I want to play a game. Yeah, I got a lot. I got some Saw vibes with this too. Because he's not killing and he's killing quote unquote bad people. So do you side with Dad? Do you side with Jigsaw? Is it still killing people? Yeah, I got those same vibes. But y'all ready to jump into it?
Let's go.
All right. Now, one nitpick I will say right off the get-go is the opening credits are about 2 minutes long. They could have shortened them up a little bit. The film starts with...
for damn sure, dude.
Because the second rewatch, I skipped through all of it. The film starts with opening credits and old-school-looking Midwestern pictures, newspaper clippings, and a title card. FBI headquarters, Dallas, Texas, 10:25 p.m. Agent Wesley Doyle shows up to the building. Agent Hull greets him and shows him the man asking for the agent in charge of the God's Hands case. He walks in and he's holding his picture of his mother. He says his name is Fenton Meeks, and he says he knows who the God's Hand killer is. He asks Doyle why he questions his doubt. Sometimes truth defies reason, Fenton says, then tells him it was his brother. He got a call from him last night. Adam says demons are taking over the world and he can't handle them all. Promise to take me to the Rose Garden. And then he hangs up on Fenton, and Johnny Cash plays as Adam takes a gun out of his drawer, killing himself. It all happened about 200 miles away. He says he promised Adam he'd take him to Thurman to the Rose Garden. Fenton says he has a lot more story left to tell. Doyle exits and calls the Meat Sheriff office. He talks to the operator, and she tells him that Fenton caused a ruckus, stealing an ambulance and his brother's body. Sheriff and Meat says they'll not press charges if the ambulance is returned. Fenton says he showed up because he can't live with what he knows anymore. What makes you think your brother is a God's Hands killer, he asks. Flashback. Summer of 1979, Thurman, Texas. We see the younger versions of Adam and Fenton walking home singing church hymns. And I wrote, Fenton isn't as invested in singing. They get to the Rose Garden and they chat about a pretty girl who threw up at school. They live right behind the Rose Garden. Adam was 3 years younger and their mother died during Adam's birth. And their dad is a mechanic. It's dinner time now, and I wrote Adam is the only kid who loves to eat peas. Dad asks Fenton about his math test and tells him not to sound glum and offers to help him this weekend. Adam and Fenton are talking now before they go to sleep about going to see a movie after school, and then Dad tucks them into bed. Fenton finally caves to seeing the movie that Adam wants to see. And now I just wrote older Fenton, Matthew, with parentheses beside that, narrates and says that's their family, just them three. Dad wakes him up in the middle of the night and tells him to listen carefully. He had a vision that night from God. Dad was in bed and woke to seeing like a reflection on a trophy. An angel delivered the message to him, told him the truths of this world. There are demons amongst us, Dad says. Only us and people like us know about it. Adam says he's scared, but Dad tells him God will protect them and not fear these demons. Angel called them God's Hands and they're superheroes. Fenton doesn't think it makes sense. Their superpower is we can see demons that others can't see. They'll be getting 3 weapons to help them. They can't tell anyone or they put themselves in danger. Older Fenton says he didn't know how to feel. He says my happy and secure world had been flipped over. All right, Brian, what you think of that opening 2 scenes?
All right, so everybody else got their Bill Paxton love in, and I don't think anybody will object since it's a very pro Bill Paxton podcast crew. When I got to give him a little bit here. Look, I love this guy. I think he's one of the legends of the business. I love him in everything that he's been in. Every single line that this man delivers, it's packed with that Paxton charisma. I mean, he just takes any role and just makes it his, and I think he's so great again. And I love the dude so much. That's why the whole time during this movie, I'm praying that he's right in this movie because I do not want him to be bad. Also, let me give props to Powers' freaking booth in this movie. Nico brought him up early, but my man who was in Tombstone with Paxton, one of my favorite movies again. And a few years earlier, he did it with him. And actually both were in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. together as well. Ironically, they both, not so fun fact, died in 2017. Both just legends of the business. I will say about this, there's not enough. I didn't feel like that there was enough cat and mouse with Booth, Doyle, and McConaughey throughout. I feel like that was kind of a missed opportunity with those two just big name actors. And I will say too about this group of scenes, I really love the family moments here. I feel like this beginning is very important because I mean it shows the love that Paxton has, and he's just credited as dad, like Mike said. But I think I'm just going to call him Bill Paxton tonight. But these moments here, just like with them at the dinner table and him tucking them in, it really shows his love that he has for these children, and shows that he's a really good father. And I think that that's important on a lot of different levels as this movie progresses through. And that's actually brought into question some. It's really easy for me to relate, especially as a father to him, and that as well as his relationship with Fenton. I mean, heck, plus me and my brother are only 3 years apart, just like those two. So, just like those two boys. So it's very easily relatable to me as well. Lastly, I just want to get into this just a touch, but first of all, I want to say that I'm not some theologically trained person that has some very extensive knowledge of the Bible. And honestly, so much of that's up for interpretation anyway. But I did want to point out, based on what I think and interpret, some things with the Bible, is that it really couldn't be God that would be protecting Paxton during this film. I mean, from what I understand of the Bible, you have general revelations and you have special revelations. And general revelations would be things like you shouldn't lie, you shouldn't steal, thou shalt not kill, the 10 Commandments stuff. So special revelations are stuff like an angel coming to Moses, with the burning bush, or like an angel coming to Mary to tell her that, she was going to have a child. And like in this movie, it would be a special. And, so what I do understand, from what I understand, is like a special revelations can't counter scripture. Like it needs to be consistent. Like you can't say God told me to steal. Now obviously that's a direct contradiction. Having Father Meeks kill people in this movie under the guise of them being demons. I mean, because even demon possessed people are still people, and thou shalt not kill is one of the 10 Commandments. So, I mean, heck, Jesus would cast out demons when he encountered this, and he wouldn't kill the person. So I don't think it's God who is protecting them from being caught. I don't know what it would be, but either that's kind of a something that they're going a different way with, or it's just something to think about. So I just wanted to put that out there since we have, all of our own interpretations anyway. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I like the way this movie kind of starts off. Very dark, very, the rain is good, and Matthew McConaughey here is really, really good. And this is kind of right on that line of when he started doing stuff. And by the way, this isn't a knock; it's just the truth. This is kind of like right on the line of the time where he started doing stuff like Failure to Launch and rom-com, his little rom-com phase that he had. So he was still this is right at the tail end of that really good first one anyway, that really good first Matthew McConaughey run. And he's great. And, something else he's really good at, and I think he should probably do some more of, is narration. They should definitely find a way. I mean, someone should really hire him to narrate more stuff, in my opinion. I
My
think
GPS would be awesome with him.
all
there.
right. You gonna take a left up here. But no, he's great. I love the way that so this story, the first time I ever saw it, and this is kind of basically a new watch to me. It had been so damn long I had forgotten the movie. So I'm a little confused early on here. Why? You see the phone interaction with his brother, and he's kind of like turning his brother in, and I really like the back and forth between McConaughey and the detective. But and by the way, I'm going to call him McConaughey because at the end I get a little confused. Which damn Meeks are you, man? So I'm going to call him McConaughey for pretty much throughout the whole movie. But I like the back and forth with the detective. I think that's really good. The way there's just like a little bit of a light beam kind of going through on that opening scene right there where they're talking. I like that. That's really interesting. The dialogue is great. This is a very dialogue heavy part of that set of scenes. Then you get to the family stuff, and I think it's important to build that family dynamic early on here so you can kind of – now, look, I'm just going to come out and say that for the most part I'm siding with Fenton, even though he's a kid and he's kind of disrespecting his dad. But we are seeing his dad, or we're about to see his dad kind of lose his shit a little bit, or that's the way I interpreted it. So it was kind of hard to side with Bill Paxton, but I'm glad they established the relationship. So I could make that choice where I see that clearly Bill Paxton's character loves his kids. And so I think to establish the brotherhood there and the father-son thing as well is really that they did a great job. And I think these two kid actors, for what they were given, were it was a lot. I mean, this movie would be a lot on a kid actor, and I think they both did a pretty good job. That's pretty much all I have. What I will say is I'm watching this movie through this up to this point, and he says his secure world is flipped over. And that line kind of stuck with me because I do remember when I watched it and took notes this time, I'm kind of thinking, okay, this is kind of starting out slow, but it really doesn't stay slow. It stays really interesting. It really gripped me in like right after these set of scenes. So again, there's a few more nitpicks, but for the most part, I'm going to be talking a lot of good about this film.
Oh yeah, that line is great. Just seeing that kid sitting in school and then Matthew narrating it. I love that. The next morning, Dad wakes him up and they struggle to get out of bed. Adam asks Fenton what's wrong as he has a blank-looking face. Dad takes him to school now and bums a bite of Adam's sandwich. Nothing mentioned on the car ride of the night before. He drops him off and says, "Don't tell anyone what we talked about." Fenton pauses in disbelief. In class now, Fenton fights falling asleep. Dad was on his way to work, and Dad calls him for their first weapon. A light from the sky points to a barn in the country. Dad walks in the barn and sees an axe with the name Otis and a pair of work gloves. Dad brings them home and says he doesn't understand the gloves. Dad gets home to them watching TV and reveals the last weapon. It's like a metal piece of pipe. Fenton couldn't believe it's real. That night he's washing dishes and Dad calls him to the table to talk. He apologizes and says God has willed this and we must obey it. Fenton says maybe you dreamed or maybe you're not right in the head. And I got a little laugh out of that. He says it's true and you'll see it soon. He reveals the first list. He's a mechanic, so he rolls under the car to do his work, but is visited by the angel. The car turns into a cathedral, and we see the angel descending down with a fire sword. Dad looks on stoically. He comes from under the car and writes the names down. Fenton says, "These are people's names," and Dad says they're not. "When I lay my hands on them, it will reveal who they really are." Fenton wakes up to a dream of an axe wipe in class with a shout. He wanted to stop his dad. Adam brings Dad a list, but Dad says it's just a made-up list. Dad says we destroy demons, we don't kill people. Adam apologizes and is told to have patience, and God will send him his own list when he's older. Fenton says the only thing left to do is tell. We see Fenton staring at the sheriff's station, but he can't go inside and tell. Dad was supposed to take them to the movies, but he didn't come home from work. The boys lay down in bed. Fenton says it's all made up, just like Santa Claus. Dad made it all up, and Fenton says they should just run away. Adam doesn't want to leave their dad. The car pulls up, and Fenton wakes up. He looks outside to see Dad carrying a body wrapped in a sheet. He runs outside and follows him into the shed. Dad has him come over, and he sees a female nurse bound and her mouth taped up. He carries her inside the shed, and the boys join him in the shed. Adam shines the light on her. He tells Adam it's a demon. Don't be afraid and come on in. Adam and Fenton look on in shock. Fenton narrates that Dad went to Jacksonville, 45 minutes south of Thurman. Never been there, but had no trouble finding it. He walks onto a porch with the pipe and hides around the door. Cynthia Harbridge? Then he strikes her. Back to the shed, Fenton asks for him not to do it, and he says it's God's will and don't be afraid. She cries as he walks slowly towards her. All right, Brian, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, Mike kind of touched on this earlier with McConaughey's where he is in this point of his career. And I know this isn't close to this point in his career, but to me, that I think he's playing almost the true detective version of himself. Unlike, say like Sam Jackson or hell, even Bill Paxton, for the most part, you have them taking a role and making it basically them. McConaughey does it to an extent, but he's also he's really good at transforming himself into the role. So a lot of them are different. And this one just stood out to me, though, as the same way that he kind of acts in True Detective, which, by the way, season 1 of True Detective is freaking amazing. One nitpick I noticed during this group of scenes, like when they're driving to school, you can tell it's on a green screen behind them because the car actually starts to turn and the background starts to turn before Paxton even turns the wheel. So it's just something I kind of noticed there. Also, I wanted to note that Matt O'Leary, who plays a young Fenton, he was actually in Live Free and Die Hard too. Live Free or Die Hard as well. Let's say it like that so it's not so confusing. But I think he does a amazing job throughout, especially like in this set of scenes. It just seemed like, he's seeming so distracted and conflicted without even saying a word. I mean, he didn't need the narration of McConaughey saying that he was distracted. I mean, and his relationship and his scenes with Adam are just so realistic. Like their conversations, everything. It was well written and well delivered dialogue there. Also, I love that shot of Paxton underneath the car when he gets the vision. Like you see this big, grand, epic scaled event of like this angel coming and bright lights. And then bam, it cuts, shows him just under the car with that whole elevator music playing and the lady coming over the intercom. I thought that was almost comedic, almost and I know a lot of movies have done this, but the first one that pops in my head is the 2003 Dawn of the Dead remake where, they're fighting zombies and they get in the elevator and you have the elevator music pause break type thing. Anyway, that's what it reminded me of. But, the whole thing is all fun and games when it was talk, but shit got really real quick. And, you felt you felt the whole gravity of that situation and the entire movie just shifts whenever Pax shows up with that nurse. And, a fun fact with that, test audiences actually had some issues with the first reveal of that whole bound and gagged nurse at Dad's feet. Paxton was quoted as saying that it was a very strange feeling to watch all of those people walk out because apparently 25 people walked out because of that scene. So pretty crazy. Go ahead, Mike.
I did not know that. That's man. I know 01 was a different time, but it wasn't that long ago. Good Lord. Anyway, we've seen a hell of a lot worse, I guess. But
no doubt.
Well, yeah. Well, so I kind of like that they played, where Paxton wakes up and he wakes, the kids up for school, and you're kind of thinking, maybe that was all, phooey. It's all a dream, like Fenton suggests, and then I would be so mad if I was Fenton if that's the last thing my dad shouted out of the car at me right before I go to school. Man, you could tell the kid's already got a lot after that now, and now he has to sit with school all day with this. It's just, I don't know. I like the character of Fenton, or I guess it's Fenton. See, that's where the end gets me a little fucked up. But
I call him Fent. I call him Fentatum. Fentatum.
Okay. Well, this is where the tall one. Yeah, I like the character of the tall one. Yeah. So a couple other things about this. This set of scenes is the angel coming down with the fire sword. This is where I'm very glad that the direction was in the hands of Paxton, because this is the set of scenes, and I have it wrote down, where if it were in the hands of anyone else or the wrong person, this idea that this movie is going for, that the script is going for, could be way over the top, way hokey. There could be a lot of this, And I feel like that would kind of water this whole idea down. If like Paxton and everyone else are on that crew kind of kept the movie a little more grounded. So I'm glad this scene is here, but I'm glad it's not the whole movie is like this, where we see the angel a lot and stuff like that. Like, I feel like this was all that was needed to kind of get the point across. But I like that shot where he's coming out underneath the car. I think it's a cool shot. But it's so I like the fact that this movie, you know, we've already kind of touched on it, but you want to side with Bill Paxton because he seems like a loving father, but all we see from our point of view is him killing normal looking people. We see him shaking when he touches the head. You know, he looks like a Southern Baptist infomercial guy, you know, but that's all we see. We don't see what he sees until until some stuff later. So up to this point, he just looks like a crazy guy who's lost his mind, like, you know, kind of like Fenton has said. And so I like the fact that that's the way they pulled me in, where I still know that Bill Paxton's a loving dad, but I definitely can see the point where all he looks like to me right now is a murderer. And I like the fact that it keeps me invested. Like, are we ever going to get to, you know, I'm watching this movie. Are we ever going to get to see what he sees so we could kind of understand where all this is going? Like, so I feel like that was obviously that was intentional. But I think some of that might have been budget too. Like, there might have been some budget stuff there, but I think they wanted to keep it grounded and kind of hold off until the end. But I like this first, you know, the first nurse kill. I don't see how people were so offended by that. That didn't make any sense. But obviously, I love the dynamic of Adam or the little one, whoever he is. Damn it! See this, Nico. This is the ending I'm talking about. But but I like the fact that Adam is taking his dad's side and Fenton is not, and you're starting to see a split, and that the dynamic, but Fenton still being a good older brother or the best that he can be. And so I love how the family dynamic we've already established is playing into this set of scenes. So I like this set of scenes a lot. It kind of really, really keeps the narrative very, very strong.
Yeah, well, correct me if I'm wrong, Nico, but like, you know, the short one's always Adam and the tall one's always Fenton. It's the only thing in question is who McConaughey is.
Right.
Right? I mean,
right.
Yeah.
But
Fenton's the older brother. Adam is the younger one. McConaughey just lied to everyone that he was Fenton. So whenever they go to look for him, they're looking for the dead brother at the end.
Right. Okay.
Right.
And I can't.
Right. And that makes sense. Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly what Bill Paxton said, but I watched a couple of his interviews about this movie. But just to touch on something Mike said, he considered doing the whole, you know, whenever the dad touched them, that he would show their sins, but he felt like, I think he felt like it would be better for it to be revealed at the end and not right then. It wasn't really.
Well, it was James Cameron, I think, that told him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. James Cameron told him to do that. I got that in my fun facts. You're exactly right. Thank you. I couldn't remember correctly, but you're right. Yeah, James Cameron. There's some big directors had a lot of praise for this movie, so that was really cool. Back to the station, and Doyle asks Fenton if it's true and where's his father now. Agent Hull knocks at the door and lets him know he's heading out unless he's still needed. Doyle asked him, so he killed her right there. He believed when he laid his hands on her, it revealed her sins. Dad grabs the woman's arm and he's scared and lets go. He grabs again and looks terrified and grabs the axe and kills her. The boys look on in fear. Now to the rose garden, we see the dad digging a hole to bury her. Fenton is crying as Adam helps bury the body. The angel says it has to be buried a specific way, and the rose garden was chosen just like them. He tells Fenton not to cry. She wasn't a human. He says it was a demon. He said after he touched her, all he could see was the evil, even after thinking she was just a woman too. Fenton is terrified after learning of more people to kill, and he threatens to tell on him. Doyle asks if he didn't tell. He says no, he was terrified of his father. He asks if he has any physical proof. He says he read in the paper only one of the 6 bodies had been found. The first victim was mutilated with a note, and the others only had notes, no bodies. The other note said there would be no more bodies. He wanted to keep them. He says the rose garden. Doyle takes him to his car after handcuffing him in the rain. Doyle asks why he didn't come see him sooner. Fenton says he avoided it inside of him. He asks Doyle about only having one picture in his office. He says his mother was killed a few days after the picture. Fenton asks if that's why he took this case because of his mother's death. He tells Fenton he's pretty good at this and has good instincts and should be a cop. He tells him he thinks he's hiding something from him and has him tell more of his story. The boys watch a cartoon about God's will and making their own choices. Not much happened after that night, he says. A full month later, the boys walk home, and a friend asks Fenton if he wants to stay, but he's got to ask his dad. The boys race home, and Fenton stops when they get to the garden. He refuses and takes the long way home. They get home and see a new van in the driveway, and Dad says he can't stay at the friend's house because they have work to do as he grabs his list. They get to a store, and Fenton tells Dad that nothing, not even cameras, could catch them when doing God's work. It's broad daylight, and Fenton says we'll get caught. Fenton says he can't do it, and Dad tells him to do what he tells him. Fenton calls for his dog under the man's car. The man bends over to look, and Dad strikes him from behind with the pipe. He yells at Fenton to help grab his legs. The man is bound to the chair. Dad puts his hand on his head and again is shocked by the sins he sees as another loud score plays. You didn't think anyone knew, did you? But God saw you. You can't escape God's wrath as he strikes him with the axe. Fenton is digging the grave, and Dad says he was a murderer of little children and babies, and he can't believe he didn't see it. Fenton calls Dad the murderer, and they need to run away. Adam says he's a demon slayer, and he sees it when Dad touches him, and he's going to tell Dad on him as he runs away. All right, go ahead, Brian. This is the next few scenes I got.
Real quick, if you don't mind, I want to going back to that last set of scenes with the killing of the nurse. So one thing that of note that I wrote down that I didn't say, but I didn't care for this, is like you have so much tension built up. And like I said, in that last group of scenes, like you get that real weight and gravity of the situation that's given to you there with the nurse. But then it cuts back to the station with Doyle and, who, like I said, Fent Adam. But like we cut back and then we get the rest, but I don't like that cut right there. I think it kills the tension. I think they should have just continued on with the kill there and maybe, cut back afterwards. I wanted to say too that especially in this scenes at the police stations, what I was talking about with the Usual Suspects vibes, like Kaiser Soze, it definitely popped in my head there, and it was definitely Usual Suspects vibes to those parts. And I also wanted to point out that there's this acting moment that as Doyle is putting McConaughey into the car, and he goes to grab him, and McConaughey's like, "No, I got it." Like, it's little, and I don't know if I could tell if that was like improvised by McConaughey or not, but it just stood out as one of those like real moments that to me like just add such realism to movies and that I notice sometimes. And if it's, it probably was improvised because I mean, hey, these both of these actors are just geniuses. Speaking of other movies though, like when they're burying the bodies, I definitely got Stir of Echoes vibe as well with Kevin Bacon. But and at this point with Killing Mr. March, that whole fat pedo child murderer who by himself looks like the principal from Billy Madison, who's coincidentally probably a fat pedo child murderer as well. But I'm not even questioning Paxton at this point. I mean, I don't know if it's just because he's delivering the lines or because it's Bill Paxton. I don't know. But his acting and the way that he reacted, I'm completely opposite from Mike. Like when he touched him and gets that vision, I mean, like I'm a believer and I didn't even see it. So give me that axe, Private Hudson. I will follow your tornado chasing ass anywhere.
Oh man. Oh, he does. I mean, this is my viewpoint is no knock on Paxton's acting. He does a great job. I mean, he sells the shit out of that like a really good pro wrestler, man. He's selling that shit. He's Brother Love back in the day with that. But no, so I really love the interaction with McConaughey and Doyle. And I thought it was kind of weird and a little out of place at first when they're talking about his mother's death and the killer, he getting away with it and all that stuff. Like, I thought that was a very odd and out of place. Makes sense later on, but it felt kind of weird to bring it up, especially right after the scene that we just got. But just what I took away mostly from this scene is when they kill, you mentioned his name, which it's slipping me. I didn't write it down, but
Mr. March, I believe.
yeah, Mr. March. That scene is a tough watch, and that's me, and I mean that as a good thing. Like the suspense is there. You could tell Fenton doesn't want to be a part of it. It's very, very gut wrenching because you can tell Bill Paxton's character feels justified in all of this, and he's got one son on him, and he wants both his sons to be right by his side doing the right, or in his eyes the right thing. And Fenton's just internal conflict is so strong here, and I think it's very well acted here. Like I think that that I believe his name Matt O'Leary, he does a great job of portraying this. And this scene, I'm not gonna lie, all the other ones, I'm like, well, why do we want to kill this person? Why do we kill this person? This one, just by the looks of it, I could kind of tell what they were going for. I mean, not to be rude to the actor, but I'm just being honest. I could kind of see where that was going. And I love these scenes where they're digging the graves as well. I think it's very creepy in a realistic way. It's not supernatural vibes. It's not, slasher vibes. It's very realistic. I know that sounds weird for a grave digging scene, but I think the interaction between Adam and Fenton is so genuine. It's very kid-like to be like, I'm going to go tell Dad on you. This is a very important, thing here, Adam. You don't have to snitch right now, man. Come on. Like, you just running and being a tattletale because I called Dad a murderer. That's kind of fucked up, man. No, I really like the set scene. This is the set of scenes that gets me really hooked into where we're going here, because eventually there's going to be some blow off between Paxton and Fenton, and Dad and Fenton, and I'm anticipating what that's going to be. And I think this is the set of scenes where we kind of get that. I think it's really, really, really strong set of scenes here.
The next morning, Dad wakes up Fenton, and he says, "Don't wake up your brother." He waits for him at the table, and the two talk about what he said last night. He says he's never killed anything, and he calls his dad a liar. Dad says he prayed a lot and asked the angel to visit you, but it visited him, and he doesn't want to believe what he was told. He says they'll prove the angel wrong because Fenton doesn't have faith. He takes him outside and gives him a shovel. He wants him to dig a hole 10 feet deep and 15 feet wide to make a perfect square. He expects half to be done by the time he's home from work tonight. He says he can't do it, so he's told to pray. He starts digging, and he refuses to pray. He hated God. Hate was his motivation to not stop. Adam brings out some water to him and apologized for telling Dad. He didn't tell him about running away, though, and Fenton says he ain't praying. He tells Adam to leave and doesn't want help. He couldn't run away and leave Adam, and he had nowhere to go. Fenton goes inside and washes his destroyed hands. He eats dinner and tells Dad he didn't give up, and he'll be back out there tomorrow. Dad sees how bad his hands are and asks why he didn't wear gloves, and gives him some pills. He makes him take the pills and use the gloves regardless of him being mad at him. He's proud of him, and so is God. He puts Adam to bed now. Fenton is digging again with no gloves. 5 days, and the hole was dark and deep as his hate for God. They started to make a cellar after the hole was dug. Fenton knew it really was only just a dungeon. They pushed the shed over the top of the hole. Next night, another demon brought home. He hands Fenton the axe, but he looks at the bound man and runs away. He thought God or angels would stop him. He runs to the sheriff's station where no one's at. So he runs around back to the sheriff's house, and the sheriff doesn't believe the story. He calls his dad, and Fenton says he can show him. He drives him home and still doesn't believe. Dad lets Sheriff in the house, and he tells him he was about to go catch some bass at the lake. There was no other cops at the station, to Dad's relief, and tells him he doesn't understand why he'd make something like that up. Fenton says just check the shed or the rose garden. Sheriff doesn't buy it at all. Sheriff said let's check it out just to quiet him down. Fenton takes the sheriff back to the shed, and he doesn't see anything, so he blames Adam for hiding the body. Sheriff walks back up the steps to leave, and the dad hits the sheriff with the axe now, and he falls down the steps. May God welcome you and keep you, he tells the sheriff as he finishes him off killing him. He says he never killed a man until tonight, and says he's dead now because you have no faith. Fenton calls him crazy, and Dad goes to hit him with a shovel, but Adam cries out to stop. Dad falls to his knees crying, and Adam comforts him. All right, go ahead, Brian. It's the next two scenes.
Yeah, Mike kind of touched on this in his opening, but in this set of scenes is when I really noticed it. So I definitely want to second this. But the way that this movie is shot, I just want to I mean, it feels so real. I mean, it's just gritty, grainy, and I love the way that they did it. It adds a definite sense of realism to it for sure. It was a tremendous choice of Paxton there to shoot it like that. And speaking of realism, I mean, just his discussion with Fenton, like I know some people will say, he's a shitty parent, but I don't know. But I think that even here, you can see that, it kills him, punishing him, and it just like breaks his heart. And, Paxton does a great job relaying that. I can really relate to this relationship, like with my own son sometimes. And like he's getting middle school age and it's getting so much harder and almost exactly like this. It's very realistic, in my opinion. Again, just a great family aspect, I guess, is what I'm getting at here. And I think they still have it and still are able to show it even here. They do such a good job too with those blisters. I mean, they look super painful. So I'm not sure I really believe him going right back out there the next day and not using gloves with the blisters like that. But I think it's just like the stubbornness that was more important to get across, to the audience than the physical realism. So I definitely am okay with that creative choice he did there too. I kind of did see him killing the sheriff coming. I mean, I'm a little iffy, with nobody ever saying anything or noticing he's even missing or anything like that. And I know it's 1979, but I mean, they had cameras back then, I imagine, at the sheriff's office. But maybe because this is such a small town and he was leaving anyway, or whatever is protecting them is the explanation. I don't know. But I did see it coming when they're, talking about checking out that cellar, and Paxton looks at Fenton and says, "I don't know, Fenton, is it necessary?" Or something like that. Like I've given that look plenty of times to my kid, not meaning I'm about to kill somebody, but like, are you sure you want to do this, son? Like when you know it's not about to end well. So you could definitely see that coming, especially on that second rewatch. Lastly, the story arc with Fenton is pretty interesting. I mean, did all this stuff really fuck him up? Or, was it like, was he just school shooter and waiting in the wings? Did he grow up to basically be Dexter, just murdering people? Well, I don't know. I didn't even watch Dexter. Did Dexter only kill bad people? If
Dexter only killed bad people. So,
okay, so hell, maybe that's more Adam.
Allegedly.
Okay, well then maybe that's more Adam anyway. But either way, I mean, you could argue, was Fenton a demon or was he just fucked up from this? I mean, it's definitely an interesting thing to look at from different viewpoints. And that's, like I said in my opening, that's something I really love about this movie.
Yeah, so I really love this digging scene. And I know this is completely not the same movie at all, but I couldn't help but thinking of Holes when I watched the scene where I'm tired of digging, Grandpa. That's too damn bad. That's what I thought of this interaction. But I love that he made him dig this hole. It makes sense from a fatherly standpoint, but it also makes sense from he's snapping sense. Like if you're watching this from the perspective that Bill Paxton's character is losing his mind, then this is like the way he says it, the way Paxton delivers it, the measurements exactly the way they need to be. And then when he says he's not going to be able to finish it, he tells him to pray. Like just very like, it depends on which side you're on, which side you take. I think that's really interesting. You mentioned this is the first time for me where I second guessed at Fenton a little bit. And it was because he has, he just kind of comes off a little bit, I don't know, school shootery in the making, like you mentioned in this set of scenes. Like I could see that kind of bubbling up inside of him now. Was it the life experience he's getting, or is it was there the whole time and he was demon, like you mentioned? Very
exactly.
I like that line. I think it's, but this is to me the first scene where I see that and it makes a lot of sense. Now what I will say is this is also the set of scenes where I kind of no longer feel for Bill Paxton's character because he kills somebody that's, well, innocent, honestly. And so this is the first time, if you're viewing it through that perspective, that he actually killed somebody. And I know that the excuse is he didn't want to, blow the secret, but I think that's a little bit of a loose thing there. So if you're looking at it from Fenton is right, you can kind of be like, okay, nope, Bill Paxton has just lost his fucking mind here. And I think that's also interesting. So again, this movie has a lot of layers. You really have to pay attention. But I feel like this is a strong set of scenes because I like the fact that it would have been really predictable to me to have the sheriff believe Fenton, and maybe that's how the dad, dies in this movie somehow, or he gets taken away or something very predictable. And I like that they didn't, the sheriff kind of sided with the dad and it bit him in the ass in the end, to be honest. And so I really like this set of scenes too. See, from here on out, we really get a lot of strong, layered on story. And I think that's a very interesting way to look at it, because this is the first set of scenes where I start to kind of get a little torn with exactly what the fuck is going on here. Like when he comes in and he sits down and he's trying to help him with his hands, and he's feeling kind of he's being more fatherly again. I just kind of threw up my hands and said, well, what the fuck is happening? Like, I mean, I've heard of being punished, but there's something there's something else at work here, and it's very, very it's very intriguing. It's a really well written story, and the dialogue is really good too.
All right, back to the house. Dad sends Adam inside and has Fenton go into the shed with him. He wipes off the axe and has Fenton shut the door. He asks if he's afraid, and he says he's afraid of his dad. Dad says only demons should be afraid of him, and he says angels say he was a demon, but he refuses to believe it. He tells Fenton he's afraid of him. He opens the door to the cellar, saying that he can't trust him. Fenton apologizes and tries to run away, but Dad grabs him and takes him to the cellar and leaving him there. You stay here until you see the truth. Pray to God, Fenton, pray to God, Fenton, pray for a vision. Only he can help you, as he nails the door shut. He cries out, he's not a demon, and please don't do this. Dad leaves Fenton in the dark cellar. The next morning, Adam comes in the shed and asks if he's all right. He tells Adam he's got to get you out of here, and he's hungry, and he has to use the bathroom. He can only bring him 1 glass of water a day. He pours some water to him after Fenton says Dad is going to kill him. Adam says you'll be out of here probably at the end of the week. Adam leaves and says he'll pray for him. And the older Matthew says Fenton counted the light through the cracks and only slept when he passed out. Dad checked on him on the 7th day. He asked if God spoke to him. Fenton says there is no God, and he locks him back in the shed. He went beyond fear and into insanity. He says he finally saw God. Adam tells Dad Fenton isn't answering. Dad opens the door and grabs his passed out son. He rubs water on his lips, and he wakes up and gives him the glass of water to drink. He awakes and says he saw God. He goes inside and is scarfing food down. He apologizes for denying him. Adam wants to know what God looks like, and he's mad because he can only see demons. They'll go get another demon once Fenton is ready. A week later, when he's ready, the first demon was Brad White in Dallas. They park outside his house, and Dad asks Fenton, you sure you're ready? He gives Fenton some gloves. He tells Adam his time will come. Fenton and Dad go to Brad's door, and they say they got a flat tire on the van, and they ask for a tire iron. Then Brad calls his wife a fucking bitch, and he leads them out back to get the tire iron from his shed. Fenton knocks something off of the wall, making a noise, and then Brad hits the Dad with the iron. Fenton hits him in the back, and then Dad knocks him out. Back at the meat shed, Dad is in pain, and he wakes up Brad. He tells Fenton he's been waiting for this moment since it started. He says he's ready to fulfill his destiny. Dad touches Brad's head and sees his sins and falls back. He tells Fenton, destroy him. Fenton swings the axe back and then kills his dad instead of Brad, hitting Dad right in the chest. Adam cries out for his dad. Dad whispers something to Adam before he dies, and Adam looks at Fenton scared. Fenton goes to free Brad, but he screams as Adam kills him with a charging axe swing. And the next 2 scenes are the ending. Go ahead, Brian.
Man, this set of scenes was so heartbreaking in honestly so many different ways. I mean, you get the reveal that, the angel told him that his son was a demon, and how that whole, that whole thing mirrors the whole Bible story of Abraham being told to sacrifice his son. Isaac with Paxton making the same choice, at least I know I would have made, without getting too religious here anyway, but it just pulls on your heartstrings just so much, like having the weight of all that revealed, and then him punishing him and like listening to him cry and beg. Like, I mean, punishing your kids, honestly, one of the hardest things ever, like I said before. But at this point, no matter if you were fully on team dad or not, but like you definitely had to feel some pull towards the side of where it's like, okay, is this too far? Like, has he really lost it and, and gone crazy? Um, and hell, Fenton. Okay, look, Fenton killing his dad here was probably my biggest like scream at the TV, what the fuck moment in the whole movie. Honestly, like I've seen enough movies with twists to kind of see the Adam Fenton McConaughey twist coming at the end. Which, spoiler alert, that's why it kind of falls flat for me. But then it's kind of easy to see the natural progression about why you. Never mind. I'll get into that at the end some, but the false sense of security here that, it's spent a few scenes giving you with that, okay, Fenton finally is on the, on the side of his dad, right side or wrong side, but is on the side of his dad, but you're still are questioning like it just a tad because it's like really like where they're going to go with it from here if he is. But you do get enough false sense of security, and I did anyway, that when he kills him, that shit, I mean, you're just freaking heartbroken all over again. And another thing I'll say is I love the shot where it's, of McConaughey's face and then the camera like pans up to the boys burying the bodies. Like it looks like, or at least gave the impression that it's just like a one shot. If they cut it there, they did a tremendous job hiding it there. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, this set of scenes is tough, man, because kind of the dynamic changed in the last set of scenes, and I spoke on that, but for me, I saw this one coming. Like I saw that Fenton, was probably whether he saw a vision or he snapped. Maybe he's the one that snapped clearly, or he was faking it the whole time. Either way, this I saw coming. If he's a demon, then him killing his dad, who's doing God's work, makes sense. And I totally see, him pulling one over on him. If it's just a kid that was tired of being in this situation, that makes sense too. And I kind of saw it coming, but it doesn't make it any less effective. I think it was very well done. Back to Fenton being in the cellar. That's hard, man. Like I didn't remember a ton about this movie, so I forgot that's a thing that he did, and we don't know exactly how long he was down there. But man, that is, you talk about punishment. That's Child Protective Services being called on your ass right there. But I thought it was a good way to get to either Fenton snapping or Fenton justifiably taking an axe to his dad's heart. I mean, I think either way, it all makes sense. I think that was a really powerful set of scenes too, because he, looks right at his face and says there is no God. And so they're just clearly on opposing sides here. Very well acted, very well done. Love the way those cellar scenes are shot with the light, just kind of creaking through the floor. I think that was really well done too. I expected the dad to be killed here, but I didn't know how it was going to be done or, whatever. But I like that he kind of lured Paxton into, we talked about it with the Babadook the other night, where he was kind of lured in with a sense of security and then bam, hits him in the chest with the axe. And, Adam ends up killing the guy they brought there to kill, which, by the way, I like that set of scenes too. That guy's a dick. If we're going to kill anybody, that's the guy. His wife spoke like 2 words and he's, called her fucking cunt bitch or whatever he called her. So, you can go ahead and off that guy. That's fine. I'm sure God was, right on that selection. So I don't even need to see his sins. I don't even need to see his sins to know he's a piece of shit. I just know. Okay. And so bye-bye to him. But I it's very sad because, again, the previous set of scenes kind of set me up to thinking, well, maybe Bill Paxton's kind of got a point this whole time. Maybe there's something to that. And I think that this set of scenes makes the dynamic completely change. And it made me question it. Okay, Brian, you touched on it, so I'm going to go ahead and touch on it too. It kind of made me question a little bit of who Matthew McConaughey was speaking as. And I will say that, I didn't necessarily see it coming, but I knew something was up, something was off because and it's because of this set of scenes. I'll wait until we actually get to the ending to actually talk about that. But I thought, again, another strong set of scenes, from the point, where I start to, the first 40 minutes or so are okay, but the last hour of this movie are very intense and very, very well done.
Oh yeah, and I think you made a great point, Mike. Even though you see it coming that he's going to kill his dad, still very effective, very powerful, and I think this show has kind of spoiled me for watching a movie just to enjoy it the first time. Because I agree with you, it's like instead of just watching it and enjoying it, I'm like trying to figure out, all right, so what is Matthew? Is he this guy or is he this guy? Yeah. Instead of just
Right.
being a normal person and just watching the damn movie. But
right, man, I have that. I have that problem with a lot of the movies we do. It's a little difficult, but I kind of like watching any movie from a movie making standpoint. But you're right, as far as this show, I'm thinking, well, where's this going? What's this going on? Instead of just kind of sitting back and taking it all in. I definitely found myself doing that with this movie, for sure.
Oh yeah, my first watch, I was definitely trying to figure out the twist ending, but I didn't get it right at first. Back in Doyle's car, Fenton says he buried him in the rose garden, and they went to the sheriff's a week later saying that Dad just went missing. Doyle says, so no one knew, and he says, not until now. And then Doyle asks about Adam. Fenton says he doesn't want to talk anymore and asks if they can just sit there. They park the car and it stopped raining. Fenton leads Doyle into the rose garden, and Doyle asks more about this promise they made. It was later that night, he says. We see young Fenton burying his father. He tells Adam, if you destroy me, promise you'll bury me here. He promises to God he will. Doyle says he doesn't get it and it doesn't make sense. And then he says, yes, it does, if the man before you is Adam Meeks. Doyle says you killed those people. He says you'll understand soon. Adam leads Doyle to a gravesite. This is the spot. Doyle says there's too many graves here. There's only 6 victims. Adam says Fenton didn't bury his victims here. Adam says he only buried demons here. Fenton kept his victims in the basement as trophies. Doyle says, you thought your brother was a demon. He says he was, and that's why he couldn't see the truth. Dad knew it too, but couldn't accept it. He compares his dad to Abraham with Isaac. God didn't have pity on Dad like Abraham and handed the duty down to me. Fenton knew I'd come sooner or later. That's why he left notes for me. He had to wait until God put Fenton on his list or it would be murder. We see the real older Fenton in his house drinking and staring at a picture of him and his dad and brother. He types as Adam sneaks behind him with the pipe. He calls Adam's name and is struck in the back of the head with the pipe. Doyle is shocked he believed all this stuff. He's always believed. Flashbacks to when Dad touches the victims. He sees the nurse had killed a man. The man from the store abducting and killing children. You're crazy as hell, Doyle says. He points the gun at Adam, and Adam says it's not going to bring your mother back, is it? Her killer got away, didn't he? He goes to strike Adam, and we see Doyle is the man who stabbed his mother to death while she was hanging laundry. How did you know, he asks. He says, you were on my list. You didn't think anybody knew, did you? That's why God sent me. He carries Doyle to a grave and drops him in, and he says, I'm an FBI agent. They'll keep looking for me. He says they'll look for Fenton. Adam grabs the axe and says God will protect me from being found on the footage and being seen. He swings the axe, killing Doyle. Back at the FBI headquarters, and Agent Hull can't remember what he looked like. They watch the surveillance tape and the static blocks out seeing his face. He finally says the name, Fenton Meeks. They raid Fenton's house and see the list with Wesley's name on it crossed out. They find Doyle's badge and ID in the basement covered in blood. Agent Hull goes to Enid County now to meet with the sheriff. The operator from earlier calls for the sheriff. The sheriff is Adam Meeks. He says he needs to ask questions about his brother Fenton. The two walk out after meeting, and Hull tells him that in person before they go public. They can't find Fenton. Adam and Agent Hull handshake, and Adam says you're a good man as he holds his hand an extra few seconds. Hull drives off, and the operator comes outside and asks Adam if everything is okay. He says it's okay, and God's will has been served. She tickles his neck and rubs his shoulder, and he kisses her forehead. They walk into the sheriff's office side by side as the film ends. What do you think of the ending, Brian?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's kind of funny that, I mean, like I'm completely the opposite of Mike with this. Like I did not at all see Paxton being killed coming. I was that was surprised the shit out of me, but probably because I was thinking of this so much. But like I kind of spoiled last set of scenes, I'd seen enough movies with twists that I kind of figured this out and saw this twist coming, and and then at that point, it's kind of easy to see the progression to, okay, Doyle is a demon and that's why he's there. But I will say that I think that fell flat some for me, and not just for like the twist aspect of Fenton and Adam and kind of figuring that out, but the Doyle thing. Like, it would have made more sense if like maybe this was somebody who tied back and into a story that that McConaughey told of them or that you've seen with them as kids. Like maybe that dude Brad White from Dallas was him. Maybe if that was somehow Doyle as a young guy and he had escaped or something and then ended up killing his mother later, or I don't know, like just maybe someone else that was important and that this was him older, just something to make it mean a little bit more in that aspect. I think the best word to describe the ending for me would be anticlimactic. And I think that's because, maybe that's because I kind of saw the end, that whole twist coming or whatever. And so it didn't really, do a whole lot for me. But that to me was kind of the best word to describe it. I didn't understand the sheriff, like, whenever McConaughey touched him, he was like, it was almost like he got the life force sucked out of him, and he was just like, like he couldn't do anything. And maybe I don't know if I missed a part or like I don't remember seeing that happen with any of the other people that they touched. I know they were tied up and stuff, but that this is the first time for me that I was like, whoa, what happened? Did he like suck the life out of him or something? Why is he so just blah? So I didn't really understand that, but overall, believe the Bible or don't. But the religious overtones of like this movie does make it creepier, and I think that the fact that you don't know if he's crazy the whole time or not, like until the end, which quote unquote team you're on, which again, like hell, honestly, I'm just glad that Bill Paxton gets redeemed. Love Bill Paxton, rest in peace. Even if you did try the man Arnold and try to fuck with Jamie Lee Curtis in True Lies, you're still the man, Bill.
Yeah, so I think the part that fell flat for me, Brian, look, the twist, we kind of touched on it. I like it. I think whether I can see it coming or not, I think it was pulled off really well. Again, some of the stuff I said about being confused was a little bit in a joke, but there is some stuff, the first time you watch it where you're like, wait, huh? Which one is he again? But, Nico laid it out for us pretty perfect there earlier. But the detective being the person who kills his mom, that was weird for me because it was kind of out of left field. And I know that it was mentioned earlier in the night, but it just didn't, they didn't build that up any, or not that I remembered. They just, it just happened and we got to see it, which by the way, spoiler alert, that's the best kill in the whole movie. It's the only one we fucking see,
Yeah,
blood, anyway.
That's my complaint. It's not explained why he did it. He just did it. It's not anticlimactic to me. It's just unanswered to me. Like that would be my word. My word to describe it is like, why'd you kill your fucking mom, dude? You're a Texas boy. You're supposed to love mama.
Right. And nothing up to that point explains any of it. There's no character development that says that's the direction we're taking. And I know we're kind of supposed, maybe they're trying to surprise us with that a little bit. But look, I'm fine with him killing the detective, and I'm fine with it being he killed his mom. But I would have liked some kind of story development that maybe kind of at least led us on to this detective was a bad guy. Like I didn't get that vibe or that sense at all. He just seemed like he was doing his job, and he's a little stern at it. But that was my only nitpick for me. I still like this set of scenes. I like that it's raining. I like a lot of the, anything at the Rose Garden I think is shot really well. So I'm really invested there. Matthew McConaughey as the sheriff is, that's really good. Where I get a little confused is we saw the brother, quote unquote, shoot himself earlier, and now Now Matthew McConaughey's behind him. Like, again, some of that upon first watch is a little confusing, but when you really pay attention and break it down, I understand what they're going for there. For me, it got a little convoluted, but not enough to where I'm like, fuck, that was a waste of time. No, still really well done. And, like Brian said, you could kind of justify Bill Paxton at this point and his character. I guess, he was right. A really good movie, a really good layered story where everything kind of ties back in and makes sense for the most part. So outside of a few nitpicks, are a really good watch all the way through.
And just having the balls to have Bill Paxton be justified and be right at the end, whereas like you just don't see that in movies at all. Go that route,
right? Especially with religious overtones in a mainstream film.
Right.
I think that was very, hey, he's got giganto huevos.
Y'all got any more final thoughts on the ending before we jump into a fan question?
No, go ahead.
All right. The only question we got is from Michelle Mirza. She wrote, "First of all, happy birthday, my fellow Aquarius." Thank you very much, Michelle. "I love this movie and think it's very underrated. This is a very different role for these actors. Do you think they did a good job portraying their characters?" And I think if you listen to this, I think you know the answer. We all loved all three of I love the kid portrayals from the two young boys. Paxton killed it. McConaughey, he had his usual charm, but in a kind of a darker way. He was great. And Powers Booth, I thought he was a great detective as well. Brian, Mike, what's your thoughts?
No, you pretty much summed it up pretty right. I mean, I 100% agree with everything you said.
Right, and this is the best horror movie performance by Matthew McConaughey because I'll never let him forget Chainsaw: The Next Generation ever. Just throwing that out there, Matthew.
Oh, I'm sure that's his favorite performance. Let me tell you.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
At least, look. We probably should have done Texas Chainsaw. I think 1 month we should pick the theme of movies we can't stand, so we can review Texas Chainsaw: The Next Generation and shit all over it.
Yeah, I'm good for a horrible movie month. I'm down. It'll be painful for us, but I'm down to do it. All right, let's jump into fun facts real quick. All of mine are.
And we should have said.
What's that?
Hey, we should have said Jason Takes Manhattan for that. All right, anyway, go ahead.
I lost my train of thought. All right, fun facts now. All of mine are from IMDb. I got quite a few of them. It's not too many. It's not that bad. When asked why the axe used by his character has the name Otis carved into the handle, Paxton stated that he wanted the axe to have its own personality and to be unique. He found the name in Pasadena when he was there scouting for locations to film. Paxton met a homeless man and offered to give him some money. The homeless man did not want charity, so Paxton instead offered to buy the use of the man's name for this movie. The homeless man's name was Otis. I thought that was really cool. Bill Paxton used the same beer can the entire filming of the movie because they can only find one Hamm's beer can like that from 1979. The can was opened off camera and a sound effect added for popping its top. Directors James Cameron, Sam Raimi, and author Stephen King all singled out Frailty for high praise. King considered it one of the best horror movies of its year. The film is set in Texas and has 3 Texas-born actors as the top billed stars, with Paxton, McConaughey, and Powers Booth. And like we touched on this throughout the film review, Bill Paxton made the film for multiple viewings. The first time you sit through Frailty, you get pulled into the story kind of subjectively, and there's this whole kind of creep factor. But on your second viewing, there's a lot of satisfaction as there are a lot of clues laid out in front of the viewer. The script originally featured a reference to the boys wanting to go see the movie Alien from 1979, but Paxton changed it to The Warriors to avoid the reference to his own work in Aliens. And the last one I have is Bill Paxton planned to have the demon's crime shown. Well, we've already touched on that. Go ahead, Brian, if you got any fun facts.
Yeah, I only have 3. These are from the director's commentary that Paxton did. He said the soundstage work here was filmed opposite the production of Legally Blonde. Paxton said, "I would come out all covered with blood and I'd see Reese Witherspoon in her pink Chanel outfits holding her poodle and just say, 'Hey, how's work going today?'" He points out a stand-in for O'Leary during a night shot at the 1 hour and 14 minute mark. and reveals it's actually a young woman. And once you know that, it's pretty impossible apparently not to notice it. And lastly, I just had to throw this in there because Ghostbusters is my favorite movie of all time. The sound of frogs at nighttime was recorded at Ivan Reitman, the GOAT director of Ghostbusters, his house, and he quote has these great lily ponds. So that's all I had.
God damn it. Yeah, so I have so they made this movie for $11 million. And it only grossed 17 million. And I think this is one of the better movies that I just don't think anyone saw, which is very, very strange. And, a little bit of a fun fact is this movie came out 2 weeks before Jason X, which I'm not 100% sure, but I think it made more money, which is a damn shame.
Oh my God, that's a shame. That's why they keep making shitty movies, is because people don't see that.
I like Jason X because of the fact it's so bad it's good, but this movie.
I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry, you broke up, Mike. I'm sorry. What?
Eat my shit. I said it's so bad it's good. This movie's a lot better. So it just kind of goes to show you the artistic value. Sometimes a lot of people don't see the vision. And by the way, a question I thought to myself: do you think this movie could have been named something a little more? With a little more pizzazz to kind of draw people in. I mean, the cast is good, but you slap the name Frailty on it, which I get, but very non-headline grabbing, if that makes sense.
Well, I think they were going to go with God's Hands Killer, I think, but they changed it to Frailty, I believe. I think is something I read.
I don't know. I might have gone with God's Hands Killer or God's Hands Killer.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted to pick this, honestly, because I like it, and I think it didn't get the love it should have. Right. Let's jump into our least favorite kill, and the rating. It's brought to you by Loot Crate. Just go to their website or just go to our website and click on the link and use code BF15 for 15% off, which is a really good deal. Brian, you want to read off Dustin's rating first? We missed Dustin tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Dustin said his favorite kill was the dad. It was shocking, and even though we wanted him to be stopped, we weren't sure if we'd get it until he got chopped in the chest with an axe. Similar to how Dick got whacked in The Shining. Least favorite kill, Sheriff Smalls. All he had to do was, be a good cop and at least hear the kid out, and he would have lived. Instead, he got knocked down the stairs into the dungeon like a little bitch, unlike the armed law enforcer that he was. And I'm surprised, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. Dewey would have never. All right, so lastly, his rating. First of all, he says, "Happy birthday to Nico. He loves you like a brother, and you're one of his closest friends, and he's proud to call you that." Secondly, very solid movie. Good story, good acting. Shout out to Bill Paxton, Powers Booth. He talked about our co-starred in Tombstone as well. One of his favorite all-time movies as well. Very good crime drama that he would definitely watch again, and he gave it a 7 1/4.
Hey, getting a 7 1/4 out of Dustin, I'll take that.
Absolutely.
Who wants to go next?
Go ahead, Mike.
All right, I'll go next. So, again, I didn't have a least favorite kill because a lot of them are not really seen and they're off screen. My favorite kill is kind of a tie between the dad and then Doyle's mom. It's kind of a tie. It's the only ones we kind of get to see some kind of visual of. And so I thought that was, I had to pick something there. Yeah, so I mean, I thought this movie has a really interesting story, very unique, very different. I like the way that they incorporated the religious overtones, but it wasn't preachy in any way, if that makes sense. It was a very good, suspenseful thriller movie to me. The acting is great. The cast is great. Again, there might be a few things here and there that I would have done differently, but overall, really enjoyable film. Short run time, which really helps me out a lot. Me and Dustin are on the same page tonight. I gave it a 7 1/4 as well.
All right, I'll go next. I don't want to go last. I want to hear Brian's thoughts to end this out. My favorite kill, I picked, I picked Doyle, and I just picked that because, all the kills basically are off screen, but I picked Doyle because anyone who kills their mama deserves to get what he got. The worst kill is, to me, I picked the Sheriff Smalls as well. I wrote, my man was just trying to go fish and got killed because Fenton couldn't see the vision. Excuse me. My rating, I gave it a high rating. I gave it a 9. Just because I love this kind of movie. Like, it gave me Seven and Saw vibes. Obviously, I love those movies. I watched this movie on a random night on Amazon Prime. The fact that McConaughey was in it was already a selling point. I love this kind of suspense psychological thriller. Like I just said, gave me some Seven vibes. I think the acting was great from the kids all the way to the legends, such as Matthew Paxton and Powers Booth. I thought it had a great pace, atmosphere, mood, and feel. I think Paxton killed it as the dad and did a great job in his directorial debut. I love a film with a good twist ending and makes you think subconsciously. I think this is a hidden gem and deserves a review. And we touched on this earlier, but I'm going to give him one more shout out. Big shout out to one of the producers of this film, David Kirshner. He was a producer on every Child's Play film and one of the greatest Halloween movies ever, Hocus Pocus.
I knew you were going to do that.
All right, Brian, I'm ready to hear your rating, brother.
Yeah, I'll be short and sweet because I've talked pretty much given my thoughts on the whole movie the whole time. My favorite kill, and it's sad. Like I understand Nico off air said he's ready to do a slasher. He's chomping at the bit, and this is one of the reasons why is because the last I can't even remember the last time we had a good choice of kills and to go from. Like almost every movie we've done lately has had all the kills off screen. So. I went with the dad for my favorite kill as well. I put that I didn't have a least favorite kill because most of them were off screen. Totally. Again, I thought great cast, pretty much freaking great movie. Like the only thing I would have changed, I would have given this thing a 9.5 had the ending, maybe had a little bit more gumption to it, or I don't know. I can't think of the word to use there, but just a little bit more. But I gave it an 8.5. Very solid rating from me.
Awesome. That's I really appreciate you guys, taking time out of your week to review this for my birthday. I really appreciate that. I think this is a great movie. And fun fact that I just thought of: this is my third movie pick from the year 2001. So. Yeah, big shout out to 2001 for me.
All right, Jason X soon come, baby. Here we go.
It will not be me picking Jason X. I'm just going to go ahead and say that.
Brian's got it, right? Oh, my bad.
Yeah, Brian
Trust
loves
me,
Jason.
it will not be me as well. I saw that shit in the theater, and I'm not. You pick it, and I'll get into it.
God damn it! Frozen face kill is elite, son.
Okay.
And I just wanted to touch on McConaughey one more time. That ending, like where I love the line where it's like, "You were on my list." I don't know why, but I just love the way he delivered that line. It was so good. I just love his accent. I wish I had that accent, honestly. But any more final thoughts on the movie before we get out of here?
I don't think so.
Man. I enjoyed it. Happy birthday, brother. Love you, man.
Absolutely. Happy birthday. Thanks again, Nico.
Oh yeah, this is. I think we didn't do birthday bonuses last year, so. Whatever you guys want to pick for your birthday, if you want to do a movie review or just a one-off bonus show that we do sometimes, I'm down. Let's do it. I love making new.
Halloween 2, here I come, baby. Woo-hoo.
Oh, we just canceled birthday month. Sorry. Fresh out of them. Fresh out of birthday months.
Exorcism of Emily Rose, baby. Let's do it.
Oh wow. He's trying to get on Brian's bad side. He got picked on for a whole year and a half being just like Brian. Now he's trying to make him his enemy, I guess.
He's pushing it. He's pushing it.
Hey, when Emily Rose starts spouting off those numbers when she gets possessed, it's creepy as fuck.
Oh, boy.
I wouldn't know.
No.
We're going to run Brian off.
You gonna learn today.
Well.
Not today, sir. Not today.
Sorry, I'll send you the clip. All right, I'm just kidding. All right,
I'll go ahead and close this out. I just wanted to thank all of our fans and listeners for the support. This movie is free on Amazon Prime right now. If you have an hour and 40 minutes, you got some time to burn, and you want to watch a good psychological thriller, go check this movie out. I highly, highly suggest it. I mean, hell, it got a 7.25 out of Dustin, so it's got to be pretty good.
Yeah. No doubt.
Oh, thank you for all the support this year. And since we started this show, it's awesome. And we really appreciate it. And we'll be back next week or our next review will be the first one in horror comedy month. And I'm looking forward to it. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Y'all have a good one.